are you doing this, huh?
I'm gonna blast these fools with some hot and pots and cocoa nuts.
What? I would never! Is that how a healer is supposed to behave?
Oh, relax, man. You're supposed to have fun when healing.
Fun? Do you know, dear sir, how difficult it is to spread atonements, provide absorbs, deal damage to transfer through, healing, actually heal?
Sounds like you're playing Discipline.
Yeah.
Hey man, cheer up. Look, you can get some talents, covenants, legendaries, and rotation tips in this video.
And that's all I need?
Well, you still need more.
More what?
More buffs.
And you can also buff your UI. The CurseForge client makes it easy and quick to install anything and everything you want with only one click away. It's the old Twitch client for add-ons, now working independently with frequent and awesome quality of life improvements and updates. The client devs are very active with all the changes, bug fixes, and improvements which so far have made the client better and better for us. It's awesome that the app makes add-on creators have a place to put their work on, and we want to thank CurseForge for sponsoring our video and making add-on management simple enough that even I can understand it. If you want our sexy UI for yourself, use the link in the description and you will get all our add-ons in one go. Starting off with the talents, the first row brings one of the most important rotation spells with Schism. It offers on-demand damage that increases your healing output significantly through your atonement, by providing a hefty 25% damage increase on your spells for 9 seconds, being the best choice for progression rating. This has a major impact on your atonement healing phases and can also see play in dungeons in very specific scenarios. However, in Mythics, we recommend Twist of Faith, which becomes the better choice in Mythic Plus scenarios where spot healing is taking over atonement healing, or whenever you need a high uptime on keeping your target alive, as you know, players will frequently drop under that 35% HP. The second row has the recommended choice in Angelic Feather for movement speed buffs, being more flexible than Body and Soul due to it not being tied to Power Word Shield. The latter can be used in very specific situations. Logs show that Masochism and Body and Soul seem to be a preferred choice for some of the top players in Mythic Plus content, but only in lower keys, just like Schism mentioned before. All in all, at high keys, you want to stick to Angelic Feather as it offers the most value overall. Moving down the list, since Spirit Shell is the best performing build for raiding so far, you want to pick Mind Bender for this type of content as they work best together, since your little minion helps out with the healing output through its damage and also shares the exact cooldown as Spirit Shell. Your other option on the third row will be Power Word Solace, which returns more mana overall and does good damage. This will mostly be your Mythic Plus choice where you will not be taking Spirit Shell anyway, and you need to be more mobile while getting mana on the go. Fourth row is rarely a debate, with Shining Force being the best pick out of all three. It brings the most value in utility, allowing you to get out of tight situations, save the tank from getting more necrotic stacks, or even disrupt some mechanics that require mobs to get to a certain point. Psychic Voice can also be an option in different fight scenarios, but as an overall best pick, we recommend sticking with the Force. Fifth row is also pretty straightforward. Sins of the Many is the top choice for both raiding and mythics, performing better than all other options. Shadow Covenant can have some potential benefits, but it brings the risk of being locked out of important utility spells for the duration, which makes it quite tricky. A note to be made here is that Sins of the Many does not drop its damage increase linearly, depending on the number of atonements being up, but as shown in the table below. With this being said, keep sinning. Purge the Wicked takes the lead on the 6th row, as it deals 10% more damage than Shadow Word Pain and has the ability to cleave the dot to nearby targets when using penance, making it the most viable option in all type of content where you can have enough uptime on it. Halo is the clear winner on single target scenarios where you cannot abuse dotting up multiple enemies, but it is majorly underused, mostly due to it being more complicated to use than a dot. This being said, for multi-target situations, you want to go with Purge the Wicked without even thinking about it, and even in single target if you want a simpler life. On the last row, Spirit Shell and Evangelism would be your top rating choices depending on the encounter. Evangelism could be better in scenarios where you expect high and sustained damage, while Spirit Shell shines in fights where you expect to be overhealing a lot if choosing Evangelism, so negating incoming damage becomes the better option. All in all, Evangelism is still viable, however not as powerful as the massive absorbs that Spirit Shell provides. The third option here, Lenience, will take the lead in Mythics due to its constant damage reduction on every Atonement target. It is an extremely niche pick in raids, but remains the top dungeon choice nonetheless. When talking about stat priority, as a general rule of thumb, you want to look over the following list for both raiding and Mythic Plus content, while I'll go over each stat in particular with its own usage. A note to be made here is that in the raid stat list, Mastery is over crits/verse only because we are using Spirit Shell. Otherwise, if you would be using Evangelism, Mastery becomes the worst stat on the list. We'll stick to this for now since Spirit Shell is the go-to option momentarily. Intellect is king as per usual. It provides spell power, which in return increases your healing output, main stat for any caster. Haste not only reduces the cast time of your spells, the cooldown of your power word Solace, and the global cooldown of your spells in general, but it also increases the number of attacks of your Mindbender or Shadow Fiend that they get out, and the number of ticks from your Shadow Word Pain or Purge the Wicked, if you've talented it. Takes second place right after Intellect, and in raiding content as it allows for more atonements to be applied and extended, while also generating more shields through Spirit Shell. Mastery increases your healing and absorption output on your atonement targets, and crit gives you a chance to double the value of your heals. However, it's worth noting that atonement healing cannot crit, it only does a percentage of the healing's value. Versatility increases all healing and damage done while decreasing the damage taken, nothing new here. For the Mythic Plus list of stats, crit and verse go higher than Mastery, and they provide damage increases, which is our main focus for speed runs, where Mastery doesn't perform as well since it doesn't bring any sort of damage boosts, making it the less desirable stat. Time to shine! Grab a Celestial Guidance for your beautiful weapon to give it that juicy intellect buff. On your chest, you want to go for Eternal stats because intellect and mana are never to be ignored. Add a heavy Desolate Armor kit to make it even stronger, and follow up with an Eternal Intellect on your bracers so you can bring jealousy in the eyes of your enemies when topping those healing meters. Last but not least, your cloak can have a Fortified Leech for more survivability, and now we can check out the potions. Spectral Flask of Power remains the top choice in flasks for the good chunk of intellect it brings on the table, hence making you even more noticeable on the battlefield. Spiritual Healing Potion or even Potion of Sacrificial Anima could be used near the end of your Spirit Shell ramp with 2 casts of Shadow Mend or Shields, followed by 2 Power Word Radiance cast back to back for the most mana efficiency. Combine this with the Embalmer's Oil as it halves the HP loss when using the potion, and your efficiency will be even better. Its overall healing provides is pretty small, but combined with the health saved from the potion makes this our pick here. Shadow Core Oil is also an option even though its damage doesn't contribute to the atonement heals and is rather small as well. All in all, they both have a minimal impact, so the choice is yours. We mentioned how good haste is on all type of content, so there's no debate when talking about your jewelry. 10 out of haste on those spectacular rings, and your items should be socketed with the quick jewel cluster to get you to the top. But let's not forget to get our bellies full first. We need all the nutrients we can get, so the classical Feast of Gluttonous Hedonism remains the top choice as it provides even more intellect. If that's not an option, aim for the Tenebrous Crone Roast aspect for some more haste. Now that we're set, let's see how to behave in different types of content. For raiding, you will always choose Venthyr with Theotar as it comes with Mind Games, which is the absolute best performer and helps tremendously with so many of your mechanics. Not only it does good damage that returns in healing through atonement, but it also makes your target heal instead of doing damage, which helps with your mana efficiency as well. Cast Spirit Shell, then Schism and Mind Games, and then just profit! Moving on to the Mythic Plus content, the best pick will be Kyrian with Pelagos. The reasoning behind this is that Boon of the Ascendant provides a brief period of extreme HPS, allowing you to manage those moments with big pulls or boss mechanics that are significantly stronger than usual fights. Since dungeons have a higher target count than most raiding situations, the AoE component of Boon is also relevant compared to mind games only hitting a single target. Best potency conduits you can go for in the build we recommended are Exaltation for the Spirit Shell duration and absorption increase, and Rabid Shadows for the attack speed increase on your Mind Bender. Shining Radiance can also find a spot for the huge chunk of healing increase it provides to Radiance. When looking for the Endurance Conduits, your main one should be Translucent Image. It brings on-demand damage reduction whenever using Fade, making this a very solid defensive. The second best option is Charitable Soul, which provides a very good self-shielding option whenever you use your power word shield on someone else. Make this your #1 priority if you're struggling with the usage of Fade. The finesse slots are extremely situational, making it hard to rank the conduits here. But being a generally applicable one, we recommend going for Clear Mind. The best trinkets you can get are going to be the ones boosting your intellect, haste, and crit. This being said, Kabbalist's Hymnal makes the top 3, giving you a good chunk of the king stat and proccing with 255 crit for 30 seconds. That's a lot of crit. Next in line is Soul Letting Ruby, also bringing a good portion of intellect, while the on-use effect can get you up to a whooping 1106 crit. Yeah, you heard that. 1106. Fucking thousand. Depending on the health of your target, of course. Anyways, if these are too hard to acquire, no worries. You have 2 other S-tier trinkets at the PvP vendor. Sinful Gladiator's Badge of Ferocity gives you a high amount of crit, and the on-use effect raises the levels of your intellect quite a lot for 15 seconds. Next up, Sinful Gladiator's Insignia of Alacrity boosts your haste up for a good amount, having a chance to proc for some hefty intellect as well. Pretty easy to acquire, but make sure to also upgrade them as much as possible to get the best out of each. The very best raiding legendary, and kind of the only one worth it, is Clarity of Mind. It has great uses for both Rapture and Spirit Shell, switching its use accordingly. During Rapture, your shields cost 20% less mana and they apply 6-second longer atonements, which is huge! If you go into the Spirit Shell playstyle, then the Lego adapts and increases the duration of all of atonements by 3 seconds, while also decreasing the mana cost of your damaging spells by 30%. Moving on to Mythic Plus content, Twins of the Sun Priestess would be the recommended pick if you are in a coordinated group due to its sync mechanic with another player. In order to get the maximum value out of it, you need to keep Power Infusion until your DPS has his or hers cooldowns ready to be popped. If you're mostly doing pugs, then you could also go with the Penitent one, which has a good chance of empowering your next penance after casting Radiance. The only issue with this one is the proc chance not being 100%, which can be a bummer in situations where you really need it to proc. When going for the Spirit Shell build, you want to ensure that you have stacked the Absorb shields on your allies prior to the damage occurring, as opposed to getting your atonement up and then utilizing your DPS spells after the damage happens. That being said, the ramp goes like this: reapply Purge the Wicked, activate Power Infusion, and apply 8 to 10 Power Word shields. If PI is on cooldown, cast Shadowmend followed by 6 to 7 shields. Instead, cast Power Word Radiance, refresh Purge the Wicked, cast your second Radiance, use Mind Bender, cast Spirit Shell, cast Schism, cast Mind Games, use Power Word Solace, cast Penance and then Mind Blast, smite until Penance becomes available, Solace or Mind Blast comes off cooldown, or your atonements start falling off. It happens quite often that after determining when you're going to utilize your larger ramps, there will be spare Power Word Radiant casts left available for you to use. If you find yourself with a spare Radiance to cast, then you can perform a mini ramp if the following incoming damage justifies it. And it goes like this: you apply 2 to 5 atonements using Shadow Mend, cast Radiance once the damage occurs, use Schism, Power Word Solace, use Penance to deal damage, use Mind Blast, then cast Smite until Penance, Solace or Mind Blast comes off cooldown again, or your atonements start falling off. When you are not performing any of the above mentioned actions, you need to be very conservative with your mana usage. It is very handy to simply Shadow Mend anyone that takes damage in the raid. However, you might find yourself without enough mana when entering another ramp phase. Try being mindful of how much mana your big ramps need and maximize the efficiency of your atonement casts on target that will be taking damage for extended periods of time. Also, while Power Infusion could be utilized on yourself for better healing output during your ramps, it is almost always better to use it on your DPS for fast boss fights. Faster kills means less healing needed. When talking about mythics, your healing relies on atonements for low to medium damage intakes. You should maintain your atonement by using Shadow Mend on your target and simply following your DPS rotation. This is usually enough to keep your target alive. For high damage situations, atonement will not be enough on its own. In case of group-wide damage, you should use Power Word Radiance to quickly apply 5 atonements, then go for Schism, Solace, if talented, and Penance offensively to heal your group up. Shadow Fiend or Mindbender can add up to your healing quite well, so you should try saving it the best you can for fights that require the extra healing. When this is not enough either, then you will start using Rapture and Power Word Barrier accordingly. These are the basics of a disciplined priest, everyone. Don't forget, practice makes perfect. So go out there and keep people alive until you get the hang of it and shine at the top. We also like to thank Automatic Jack and Clandon for doing an amazing work in the priest community, and they have online written guides that we've used to clarify a couple of things that we weren't exactly sure of, even though we cross-reference pretty much all the information with Warcraft logs. Some of the in-depth things take a while to learn, and these two wonderful people do an amazing job at keeping you informed, dear viewer. We also want to extend another big thank you, especially to Clandon, for checking the information in this guide and providing us with very awesome feedback on it to make sure that all the information is ripe for the taking. And we can never forget about our dear patrons, who are simply the champs when it comes to supporting us. We really appreciate every one of you guys and cannot say how much it means to us having you out there and making sure we can keep up the hard work and investments required to make this channel one of the best out there. Love you 3000. See you next time.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.